Hey, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the nonsense and talk about the bullshit happening in our backyard. I'm Spencer Fox Peterson, as always, with my partner.
Hi everyone, I'm Joanna May Booty.
Hey, Joanna, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you, Spence?
Hanging in, it's
Good.
springtime and it's budget season and in our local municipalities. There's a lot going on. So this week, I guess we're gonna go over some headlines. And we had some nice turnout for our last headlines and some positive feedback. So we figured we'd maybe make this a more regular feature on the Weed Out. So thank you everybody for tuning in again. And as always, all the things we'll talk about, we will link on our show notes on our Substack and our webpage, www.theweedout.com. Or if you follow us on any of the social media handles, or if you don't, please go follow us, like, share, and engage. But we also have our link tree posted in all of our social media bios. So please check it out, tell your friends, share it around. Joanna, do you have any thoughts?
Just what you had to say. I agree completely. Thank you everyone for all the support and for the feedback on letting us give you the news and some local headlines. Like, smash the buttons and do all the things like Spence said.
And it's nice to do the headlines because then we can put our punditry op-ed spin on it. The abolition spin or viewpoint is not a represented viewpoint. So it's our opportunity to get people thinking about the same stories we're reading, but maybe through a different lens. Remember that the big, scary mainstream media, I like to call it corporate media. Fun fact, Joseph Goebbels is the one who coined the phrase mainstream media. So when you say it ironically or purposefully, or you believe in it, the mainstream media, just remember that is a Nazi talking point. So I call it corporate media to differentiate between local journalism, small journalism, investigative journalism, community-based journalism versus corporate media from CNN, Fox News, all the way down to the Sinclair or Clear Channel syndicates that have your WWLPs, your Mass Live, etc. So we don't use the term mainstream media.
We try. You have to correct me. I'm sorry. I'm bad
Yeah,
at
I
it.
know it's one of those things.
Because
It's
it's
not,
like ingrained in,
no,
it's like, it's always used as like,
and people know what you're talking about.
yes,
So
they do.
not to say like, oh my God, you're a Nazi. I don't mean it
No,
like
no,
that.
I know that. I'm just letting the listeners know, like, that I'd have to be corrected.
I didn't know it was coined by Joseph Goebbels until recently. And I thought I knew a lot about the propaganda from the Third Reich, but I guess I didn't, because that's a big one. It's up there with, the final solution as far as scary things that are way too often used in pop culture, even though they're not trying to hurt anybody. It's just we shouldn't normalize that language, I guess.
No,
Is so that said, we are going to highlight local journalism and some national journalism, and they aren't all things we like Western Mass News and WWLP aren't our favorite sources, but they do get access to the people we're trying to hold accountable more than other smaller publications, as we know. We can always analyze what is being reported by whom to get a sense of what's important, and it's not always what's being told out loud. So that's why we want to bring these stories to attention, because depending on who's talking about it, it's good to be informed.
absolutely. That's what one of the listeners had to say, that they don't always even get to, like, no one gets to see all of the headlines or hear all of the things going on. And so I know they basically said, like, it just gives me time to hear a lot, or like hear them when you're reading them. And like you said, maybe get a different perspective. But also, like, we try to just give you the information. Everyone knows like our viewpoints on things. But some things I think are just cut and dry. So, and that's me being hopeful. But things like when they want to take, and this is a segue into where we're going, but things like when they don't want to give schools the proper funding, but we give police over the amount of funding. Like, and I think those should just be common sense things that we don't allow to happen in our communities.
True. And you can also glean a lot by, say, the shoestring. We feature them a lot and talk about them a lot, and they are they have a lot of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing access journalism. Whatever the opposite of access journalism is, they're doing. So the important thing is when somebody refuses to talk to them but will go to Mass Live, that has to tell you something, because they don't want to answer certain questions that maybe a shoestring or a Dusty Christensen or Andrew Cormier would ask. Right.
Right. And the shoestring's awesome too, because they invite all of their readers. Like if you would like to write something for us based on, something going on in your area. So this is just a plug for them. And if you don't know who the shoestring is, the shoestring.org is a great publication that if you feel you have something you'd like to have highlighted, you could write for them. You could be someone who did a feature, but you could also send them information about stories. So completely agree. They're fantastic. And that's why we use them if we can as a source. But Spencer's right. Like they do not always have access to certain institutions that in the same level that corporate media may.
But silence can be deafening, and that can also be reported. So you can say you reached out to Mayor so-and-so or Chief such and such, and you can say they did not respond. And that tells you a lot too. So we have a nice smorgasbord of stories ranging from Greenfield, Massachusetts, Pittsfield, Holyoke, Springfield, and some state legislator stuff. So we're sticking close to Western Mass, but we'll also cover something that should be monitored and questioned statewide. So I guess without further ado, we might as well just get into it. We're going to start with Greenfield, our favorite current town hall. They punished not punished, but they made cuts to the police department last year to make up for a lawsuit lost based on claims of racism, interdepartmental racism. The mayor reinstated the chief that was at the center of that firestorm. So that's red flag number one. But Mayor Roxanne Wedgardner, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, she has done a few things recently. There's obviously the things we talked about in Greenfield with the police in the last couple months. But amidst all that, she wants to get money back into the police department budget. And one of the ways she's going to do it is by cutting the school funding. So I'll read the headline from the Greenfield Recorder. Greenfield mayor's proposed $61.6 million budget curtails school funding. Mayor Roxanne Wedgardner submitted $61.6 million budget proposal for fiscal year of 2024, representing a 6.5% increase. So they're increasing the budget and cutting the budget for the schools. Joanna, thoughts?
I mean, I have so many thoughts on Greenfield, but I think it's like Counselor Catherine Golub. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing someone's name. Golub, yeah. They said like your budget is a reflection. It's their direct quote. Our budget is a reflection of what we value as a community. I believe Greenfield's number one priority should be our schools. If the Greenfield City Council passes the mayor's budget as is, it will mean layoffs, unfilled positions, and cuts to essential programs for our kids. And this has been the story year after year in Greenfield. And of course, the mayor has the enrollment is down and a lot of schools are having issues with funding. And of course, they're not necessarily saying, oh, we're giving the money to the police. But it's like it says in this article specifically that the mayor talks about both fire and police and the increases in their salary, which are much greater than most of us would receive each year, really impact the budget in such like a small town where we've talked about this in multiple episodes, but the police chief in Greenfield makes $175,000 base salary. This is a town where probably I would say the median income is probably like 35 to 45,000. I'll look it up. I could be wrong. It could be lower. So it's basically like, I think if I were there with children and I had children, and I live a town over, so I'm very invested in this. I really hope that there are a number of groups that are organizing to try to keep the budget at least for where the superintendent had already brought it to, which was down by like 6 something% already. I just don't know how we, like I said, that the budget is a reflection of what we care about in our community and our values in the community. So it makes me just question the mayor and I mean, if the council were to put this forward, but I'm not sure when the next, I know they've been going back and forth on meetings with things. So I haven't tuned in to see where they're at. But I know they had meetings coming up on May 17th is the next one. So I'm sure there will be more information. Like I said, there are a number of activist groups in Greenfield that are definitely on this. It's just sad to see this happening in so many communities where I think public school is so important.
Yeah, and public schools are notoriously underfunded. So to cite 158 less students to justify almost a 7% decrease in funding doesn't really make sense to me. And from a political point of view, never hurts. I don't, investing in kids is never a bad message. So
Right?
divesting is, what is that saying? So as the counselor you quoted earlier said, it's a reflection of your values. So to give the police and fire department 11% raises and then say, oh, that's due to contractual obligations. So their contracts account for inflation, etc., but they don't account for if there's malfeasance that costs the city money. So it looks like we need to renegotiate these contracts at the very least.
Well, yeah, and like how are teachers' contracts sitting for like years at a time with no negotiations even made? And like some teachers, I mean, you're not getting usually more than 2-3% a year. I know that it's potentially more dangerous to be maybe a firefighter. I don't know actually about a cop because teachers aren't armed and are potentially involved in a school shooting. A child could freak out and attack you. So many things. Um, and they're so essential. We saw like once the pandemic happened and people, first you're home and then you're home with your kids, but it's like, wow, this is really difficult to manage like work and my children. And then like they're back at school, and teachers and children are then in situations where they may be put at more risk. So I just don't understand how like the contractual obligations of other city departments makes more sense than filling those contracts, like even coming forward with contracts for teachers in a like timely manner too. That's often not the case. And I'm not just saying in Greenfield, that's just normal as business goes.
I agree. Amidst all of this, I know we're in budget season, but we're running up to local election season in some districts, and this mayor seeks re-election. So shout out to anybody that's active in Greenfield. Please research and hopefully get somebody that's better than this person. They're definitely in bed with the police. I'm sorry. Like, we hear rumors about interpersonal relationships that are borderline unethical in my sense. Like, if you're hanging out and carousing, and then the policies always tend to go out that way towards those people you're hanging out with and carousing with, while stripping the school of resources. To me, you can find somebody better. So
And good news, as you say that, precinct 3 counselor Virginia Ginny, she goes by Ginny, DeSorger, she announced she's running for mayor. She's already been a counselor in Greenfield since 2019. I've interviewed her actually before when we wrote some articles for the shoestring. She's was a wonderful person to talk to and had some interesting ideas about, she was part of the counselors that really thought the police had done something that required them to take money from their budget, and it did. If you had any sort of ethical beliefs. And so I think it's nice because I have an article from the recorder and the Greenfield recorder, and I'll share that. But she's, like I said, been a city councilor since 2019, and she serves on the chair as the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And she says it's time for a change. And she made her formal announcement in mid-March, late March. So I think some people in Greenfield probably are very aware of this, but if you're not, she spent 30 years as a nurse. She has managed emergency departments, and if you go and watch like any of the Greenfield meeting, any of the city council meetings or planning meetings, she is very involved, very knowledgeable, has ideas, has questions, and I would be I don't know who else is running. I've been googling that while we're talking, but she would definitely be the person I would vote for over the current mayor. Well, that's my 2 cents there. Not to say who anyone should vote for. Please just get out and vote. But I think Greenfield does need change, and someone not connected directly to departments and institutions like the police station, and then it's hard to like have, I guess, an ethical, like a non just not be, you're more biased to like say like, oh well, these are my friends, so I might let things go. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and to not distance yourself from a department that's been found to be systemically racist.
Yeah.
Vocally support the chief who oversaw everything. And I know like it's not a black and white thing. I know it's nuanced, right? And I know it's not like, oh, you did this thing. Well, I believe police should be abolished. So it's not that. And I get you got to work with these people. So, but like I said, we are hearing from many people that know about Greenfield ins and outs that mention they all hang out at the same watering hole.
And there's so much more too that we just don't even need to bring up, but bad stuff. You know what I mean?
And it's not necessarily illegal. And is there a clear ethics rule? I mean, you're the ethics person, but to me, it's like, okay.
Probably not on the books. It's just if you consider yourself an ethical person.
But you can also use that information to inform your vote. So
absolutely.
So as much as like that's not verifiable or 100% the deciding factor, it means something. So and the actions of the policies reflect favoritism, in my opinion. The fact that she stood by him after his department was found to be fucking racist, and there's multiple reports of officers that are long-serving officers that have Confederate flags and have intimidated marginalized people in his neighborhood that had just moved in. And it doesn't really matter the specifics. The point is, like, these people should not be entrusted with the power that they have. So it's as simple as that, without name calling, I guess.
Yeah, I just hope that someone like Ginny DeSorge or another person who has values like that takes the mayor position in Greenfield, because I don't think the town needs to stay in this kind of rut where it's just being like there's a small amount of people at the top and these positions of power basically taking extremely large pay cuts, putting money wherever they want. And Greenfield's not a rich town. Again, the taxes there are really high. So if I were living there and you're paying, you have kids and stuff, you'd think you'd want your money to go towards educating your children over having more racist police.
Yeah. And regardless, teachers are an important part of our structure too. We should never be begrudging them better standards of working and income. So I'm all about making sure they get paid, and that's pretty much where I stand. That so solidarity with the teachers, even though we probably butted heads a lot when I was a kid. So but that's what made me the person I am. So thank you, I guess, even the ones I don't like, even in hindsight. They do teach about the world. So.
I liked a lot of my teachers, but you're right. Some of them that I remember the most were the ones that you're like,
well, the system, it's like cops. That it's like what you're talking about with Bridget in past episode, or teachers. The system of education we have in the United States is not about creating critical thinkers. It's about creating obedient workers. That's why attendance is so fucking criminally over policed. And standardized testing. It's all set up to see the people that the most allistic folks, right? As you and I
standardize us.
Aren't I don't know what I am, and I won't speak for you, but I'm not allistic. Let's just put it that way. Like,
yeah, I'm spicy brained.
Is it trauma?
I ask too many questions.
Trauma, is it autism spectrum? Is it ADHD? To me, it doesn't really matter. It's probably a mix of everything, but I was never gonna be a good factory worker, I guess was the point.
Same. Potentially different reasons, but same.
Yeah. But let's actually let's brighten it up a little bit. We're gonna go on to Pittsfield. So Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, hometown.
It's Joanna's hometown. So actually, Joanna and I, fun fact, you'll hear it later in the show, but we found a way to accidentally fill in our hometown into this our respective hometowns into this episode. I'm from Quincy, she's from Pittsfield, so
we can work that in a lot.
So some good news and something to put on your calendar. We wanted to let everybody know the 7th annual Berkshire Pride Week will be held for 5 days straight, beginning on Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. It will be basically sounds like it's going to be a week full of fun events and about inclusivity and acceptance and community building. So if anybody's into those kind of things, I'm sure the weather will be nice. It's a few weeks off, so we can't quite predict, but if you're into social gatherings, it sounds like it's a good place to go. It's unlikely you'll run into Nazis, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
no promises in America, though.
Fair, but I feel like it will be a really good time. I'm so excited for everyone in Pittsfield and in the Berkshires in general, for Berkshire Pride to be on its 7th year and to have a full week, enough volunteers, enough support. It's just evolved into something really nice. And Spencer's right. Like, even if you're not super social and you just want to get out and see what's going on, there are just some outside activities like a pride art walk, or even just there's a flag raising. I'm sure there will be things going on with that. There's a street parade. So some of it is partying or dancing or tea party. But some of it's also outdoor spaces and things like that. So please check out that list. We'll share it on our website. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just fun because this past weekend was Northampton Pride. So they always are the earliest Pride, I guess, in New England or the Northeast where we are. And so that always excites me because then the Berkshires start. And then I think in New York, it's a little bit later in June. And it just kind of is a fun, I think, way of embracing your community in general. Please go out and support the LGBTQIA+ community, and just embrace your neighbors. It's not just for that community either. You should go out and be allies.
Yeah, it's a good time to just be around. I know we're still technically, the government says we're not in a pandemic, but we are in a pandemic. So especially for the people that are immunocompromised or disabled in any way, which is a lot of people. So, we are definitely cautious, but this seems it's going to be an outdoor event, so it should be relatively friendly. And I'm sure I actually should know this, and I'm sorry for all the listeners, I don't have this information. I'm sure there is some sort of policies in place for enclosed things that these community events are usually well organized like that. So if you do have anything, I'm sure it will be advertised on what would be maybe able for you to feel comfortable. But shout out to anybody that's immunocompromised, and we see you. We know you're, it's pretty crazy seeing how people have just moved on. And, I don't go into a lot of gatherings unless it's something really important with people. It's made me reweigh everything. I'm less gregarious, but it means the people I have good connection with, I feel okay with taking, a risk of having dinner with and being in relatively close spaces. So I'm not saying you have to be a hermit, but we do have to be careful. There's people out there that can't defend themselves, and one way we can help them is weighing our, staying up on our vaccines, staying up on masking when appropriate. And it's a bummer that we're still going through this, but I know this is a tangent on the LGBTQ community, but I wanted to go back to what I said. Like, I'll never understand fascists and white supremacists and bigots, why they pick a fight with the queer community, because I mean, there's a long history of the queer community beating the shit out of fascists. So
Yeah.
I want to reclaim that. Anybody listening, like, we got to match energy, and that's one way to match it.
Well,
Is
when
that,
you're fighting for your life, you know what I mean?
like, marginalized people are not helpless. They are strong motherfuckers, and they find joy still. They have to. It's a big
Even
part.
yeah, even while fighting for their lives to be
Yeah,
to be out there.
you know, Black Americans, our Black American brothers and sisters, and non-binary people, they they've had to endure some of the fucking most fucked up shit that it's still happening. It's not even that long ago. It's constant. It's this rolling tide of bullshit. And to see Black joy, Black excellence, it's wonderful. Same thing with the LGBTQ plus community. It's they're strong community. I'm cisgendered, right? But I can tip my cap to, they are strong ass motherfuckers, and mad respect. So don't fuck with them, because they don't need us to swoop in. They can take care of themselves, but we got to help them by calling out bigots and pushing back when we're confronted with those issues, and not working and making it uncomfortable for them to be bigots. How you make somebody feel uncomfortable is different for everybody.
Sure.
Me, I'm outwardly hostile. Other people in my life have different techniques, but the point is to make them uncomfortable and to not share those views in public. They're not welcome. I can't control what people think, but to make them uncomfortable to share their ideas. So that's how we help our marginalized friends. So I don't know. Please go and enjoy Pride and enjoy the sun at the very least. Well, moving on to the next story out of Pittsfield. Joanne, I believe you're the one who found this from Spectrum News.
Yeah. So I'm surprised because I did have school resource officers. We had one when I was in high school. I graduated in 2001. Yes. I just assumed that sorry to have to double check myself. I just thought that would be like something Pittsfield may have moved away from. This article talks about like while communities such as Worcester have actually moved away, and it's like, wow, okay, Worcester doesn't have resource officers in the schools, but Pittsfield just brought on 3 new officers to go into Taconic, which is my old high school, Reed and Herberg Middle School. So I went to Herberg, and like I said, there were always resource officers there, but in this it's 2023, my brothers and sisters, in the year of our Lord 2023, you would think we're at the point where we see that like keeping cops near children is incredibly unsafe and they don't do anything to help. It's an added burden on the school budget. And basically this article says like some members of the community were not happy about it. So a couple of the officers in the article are trying to basically, I don't know, I don't know how to put it, but, like they're basically trying to like state their worth or like why they would make it a better environment for the kids. And from my perspective, I feel again as a parent, I wouldn't want someone armed around my children. We saw with Uvalde like having 95 police or however many fucking police that school had at it doesn't stop something terrible from happening. So I just am sad that they added these resource officers in Pittsfield. And I know there are other community members that feel like me. So I think hopefully the contracts only go for a certain amount of time, but I'll have to look into that. But hopefully they can be eventually taken out of schools again because it's just not good for the children at all.
I see school resource officers, or SROs for short. So if you ever hear us talking about this in the future, which you will, Laura Saylor, one of our favorite guests, talks about SROs a lot because they're There's a pipeline of grooming. There's lots of abuse that can happen. These people are not meant to be in those scenarios day to day. And adding a cop to the mix is never good. And teenagers are fucking wild, man. They need patience. They need understanding. They don't need the threat of going to jail. So the school to prison pipeline. And what I find really hard about this debate is that it's kind of like the body worn cameras. Joanna and I are against body worn cameras. We're just like, stop giving them anything, take their fucking guns, limit them as much as we can, and let's build other systems to take over some of these responsibilities. That's our vision. So if anybody ever asks, that's the long and skinny of it. How we do that is got to be everybody talking together and doing it democratically so it works for everybody. Now, that all said, it's like body worn cameras because it seems like a good idea with mass shootings, right? So the average person is like the middle third of our country who don't want mass shootings, but don't know any other solution other than throw cops at it because of the propaganda, because of that's our solution to everything. World police, right? That's like, what do America? We have a problem. What do? We throw bullets at it. Like, that's what we do here. And drink. That's America, baby. And exploit people. We also do that.
God.
But yeah, so my thing with this is it's a tough conversation because even people, they're gettable people there because they just want the schools to be safe. I think 60 to 70% of the country just wants the schools to be safe, like by any means necessary. But a lot of people can't think outside the box, so they think cop. So we got to get to those people. So anybody listening, if you know those people, they're gettable. So if they want body worn cameras, it's because they want transparency with cops. And the problem with body worn cameras is because they negotiate the contracts, they control the data, they know how to frame things in the camera, they know how to manipulate it, they know how to edit it, they do all these things, they slow roll it. We don't have instant access to it, et cetera, et cetera. The laundry list of problems goes on. And it's more police, big brother. So you'd think conservatives would run away from this, but for some reason they don't, because they also want accountability. That's why I keep getting back to it. So these people are gettable because they want accountability. Some people just, they haven't been given any other ideas and or imagined anything different. They haven't imagined it. So it's got to come from within a little bit.
Yeah, hard agree though on like you'd think conservatives would be against it because I think back to like Dare, the Dare officer is the first person that taught me about like most drugs. Like then I was like, oh wow, like now I know there's way more drugs. And what they're called. They even had like this case that they showed you.
Well, there's
Like
been studies
examples of that.
to show the ineffectiveness of Dare. So
I know. I wouldn't even have known those drugs existed until years later when potentially I tripped upon them. But they like open a briefcase for you in like fifth or sixth grade, and they're like, "Here's all the drugs." I would have thought my church would not enjoy that, you know?
so like try to tell that. I mean, at least in my experience, they were like these older cops that were like, catching a cushy detail gig, and this is at best, like assuming they're not predators or creeps, just looking for easy work, and they'll tell about like their like most adrenaline crazy drug busts, and it's like you're talking to kids this way. Like it's so weird, like you're militarizing kids against like your own community, and it's really gross. So yeah, no, don't let your kids interact with cops. Don't let them be props for their photos, for their police association propaganda. So if you follow us on Twitter, you'll know that we tag a lot of their posts. We try to ruin as many local cop police association Twitter accounts. We try to deface every by saying just simply this is propaganda. That's one of our MOs on Twitter. So don't engage with shit, I
They
guess.
suck. And they're just everything they basically push out is propaganda or lies too.
Oh, it's all lies. Or they're using a kid as a prop. It's like so disgusting how they use children. And fuzzy animals. They're using animals a lot.
Yeah, dog like comfort dogs are the thing now.
Or like they rescued a squirrel.
Yeah, it's so dumb. Like they saved an animal. It's like, okay, first of all, do we not have animal control?
Right.
Second of all, yeah, squirrels are great, but yes, like that's basically a story. Like no, like I don't need to hear about this.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna move on to Holyoke next. So Holyoke, I don't know. Do you want to take the story, Joanna?
What's the Luke one? Reyes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So we have talked about Captain Manuel Reyes. I feel stupid using his actual title, but I like to be.
I like to my new thing is, and this is maybe not gonna make the cut for the episode, but I call them all off. I refer to every single one of them as officer. From more like I just you might notice I started calling Maura Healy Officer Healy. I'm like, I'm not gonna call you governor. I'm not even gonna call you former attorney general. Officer Healy, how you doing? You know, like you're a cop, you're a cop, you're a cop, fuck you.
Fair. And
And same thing with like Captain Reyes. I will not call him that if I ever interact with him, Officer Reyes, because it will get under his skin.
it would. So that's the thing. Like, I'm being polite because I do know in professional settings, often people like their title correct. So it's Captain Manuel Reyes. But he was placed on administrative leave for creating a hostile work environment that was basically sexual assault or just basically sexual allegations were made against him by a female employee. And he's the person, if I'm correct, who also handles like the complaints. So she couldn't really complain to anyone but him. So the investigation is ongoing. The mayor's released like a really, I don't know, I think kind of crappy statement. This guy's probably getting paid while he's sitting on
Administrative leave.
yes, on administrative leave. And like all the mayor had to say is this is a personnel matter that will receive rigorous, impartial scrutiny that respects the rights of all concerned. I would hope they would respect the rights of the female officer who said this guy was sexually harassing her at work for like it was a number of years.
And he's head of internal affairs, or he was his most
internal
recent job
affairs.
was internal affairs.
Yeah, but then who's she going to go to?
They're still letting him do that recently. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I wonder who is investigating. Who's investigating this? So then it says, I have faith in this process, and I believe it will yield a fair, unambiguous conclusion. The mayor of Holyoke needs to like step up and stop being so like you're saying nothing, you're doing nothing, you're aligning with the powers that be. And I don't know, I guess this story makes me sad because, even though I don't, anyone who's a cop, I'm not like, yay. But I don't think anyone should have to be in a work environment that's like hostile or making them feel like they're going to be like sexually harassed. And
this is a regular occurrence in police departments. This is not.
No, it's not unheard of. It's just like the army and stuff like that. Like these men are entitled to everything in their minds. And I just think I don't know. I'm glad that the harassment order was upheld and he can't go to work and bother people, but I just wish that the mayor had more of a, I guess, just pointed statement and not like saying we're going to protect both people.
And he hasn't held
whatever.
He hasn't made a statement since even this being upheld. He made one statement prior to even this.
Yeah, so that's what they must have in this article.
So it's been a month since he said anything. So this is May 8th today? So it's May 8th. It's been over a month since he addressed the allegations that are in court documents. So perjury is on the table. So if she's lying,
and it's like everyone just always assumes women are lying and like nothing actually happens when we're sexually assaulted or harassed. The cops don't protect or stop that. It's happening in the police station. So I just feel like, I don't know, I would really like it if a mayor, especially the one that acts like they're so ethical and going to make change, would look at this and call it what it is and at least not say something so I don't know, it's like he's not saying anything by saying what he said.
Milk toast.
Yes.
Yeah, of course you're not gonna be like, I believe her. I get like for legal reasons him not.
Absolutely.
I get it. Like, he's not been proven in a court of law. I get it. Like,
But you could just say how you feel, like, I will not tolerate this type of work environment. This is how I would blah, 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 expect things to
we're gonna
be.
look. We're gonna look
Yes.
into it to make sure it's not happening to anybody else.
Yeah, every department.
And not just the police. We're gonna look into every department.
Yeah, I would comb the whole administration. If that's happening in one spot, how do you know?
Point of emphasis.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, Holyoke, it's not great in Holyoke. I mean, so even to the point where we actually pulled some audio from a citizen
It's
comment.
from the Holyoke City Council meeting. Which one is it?
It was on May 2nd.
Awesome. Steve Superba is my new favorite citizen.
So
just for the moment.
A resident of Holyoke. His name is Steve Superba. So I'm gonna play the clip.
Oh, Steve!
Let's see what he has to say. Public comment from May 2nd.
The mayor of any city is the chief executive and as such is ultimately responsible for the effective and efficient operation of each department as they work toward the delivery of services for the benefit of the community. The mayor is prospectively limited in this function by the quality of the information provided by each department head. On full display at the Public Safety Committee meeting of March 6, 2023, when the MRI report was formally presented, was Chief Pratt refusing to answer a question posed by the chair of this committee, Councilor Israel Rivera, and Chief Pratt did so in the presence of our mayor. I would suggest that this refusal may be reflective of the communication dynamic between our mayor and police chief. 6 weeks ago, a sexual harassment situation presented itself in the police department. Since the mayor's original prepared statement about this situation, we've heard nothing. Both situations represent peril to the tax-paying citizens in the form of civil litigation. These citizens have a right to know the remedial steps that are being implemented. As an astute citizen, I've watched the performance of our police department over the course of time, and there are two predominant operational strategies. Silence is golden, and delay. The mayor's office has apparently adopted these two strategies. The silence is deafening. Transparency and accountability are missing in action. I, as a tax-paying citizen, demand better.
That's an Mark. Oh, thank you.
So yeah.
So Steve is my favorite citizen of the moment. We do not know Steve actually either. I'm just putting that out there. We don't know if his values align with ours entirely, but we do align in this complete, at least with me. Spence can speak for himself, but thank you, Steve.
Again, this is not where I'm not expecting the world to adopt abolitionist views the first time I hear them. Steve, I hope you hear this. Stick around with our podcast. You're onto something, bud. You're seeing something for what it is. You're not just regurgitating the propaganda. You're seeing there's a problem. It's tangible. You're seeing it, and it's a reflection from the top down, bottom out. It's all a problem, and he's right about it's. As much as we want to prevent people from being hurt, it's also going to hurt us on the back end financially. And then we won't be able to help our own house. We won't be able to help our kids get better schools. We won't be able to blah, blah, blah. And this is how poor cities stay poor. Endless liability, right, Joanna?
Absolutely. And just thank you to Steve and Steve's everywhere who recognize that when this is happening, it's really not wrong to look at the mayor, the executive functioning person, the administrative head of a city or town, or the select board, whoever that may be, and ask them questions. Even if you're not a tax-paying citizen, you are either way, renting or not. You're paying taxes somehow. The person that owns your building is, someone is, and even if you're not, you still have the right to question these people's decisions with the money that is given to them by the people. And at this point, I just completely agree with Steve's sentiment. Like, how is not talking or delaying things at all a strategy? It does seem like the mayor has adopted the same strategy. It's a weak, sad, horrible position to take, and I hope all of the voters remember this when the next mayoral election comes up in Holyoke. I mean, Josh could end up a one-term mayor if he keeps it up.
Yeah, and he's lost a lot of the progressive folk we know in town, and definitely lost our people like J.R. Rivera, who we've had on a previous episode. JR is a communist, and he also helped organize. He was part of a group of people, along with Neighbor to Neighbor, who we've also had Katie Talbot on. They're people they don't have necessarily directly aligned policies or nomenclature or ideology even, but they have values that align, and they helped Mayor Garcia get elected. This is a fact. They hit that coalition from Ward 1, pushed Josh over the edge. He entered the race late. He didn't participate in, I don't believe he participated in any of the pre-election, like debates or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, he was able to form a last minute coalition of people that he promised a lot of things to. And to our knowledge, he has not fulfilled one of those promises yet. So,
and they weren't big asks. Like, these are community members asking for things like, please don't give the cops more money and help us. And like finding rent, like more reasonable, affordable housing, like rent control things. Maybe
like
not rent control, but like some sort of like help in that respect. And
other than ShotSpotter, that coalition, they made some noise about ShotSpotter, but they've focused most of their energy on the House of Tenant Protections, the Office of Tenant Protections, which as a property owner in Holyoke, I co-sign, and we need other property owners to not be the silent supporters. We have to be vocal. So please come to city council, tell your friends. Like this helping renters protect themselves helps us, because then it will force these landlords to upkeep their properties and the values will go up. So this is a good investment.
it's also humane, like stopping assholes.
Well, I mean, by investment, I mean all encompassing, because when you treat people humanely,
Totally,
everything gets better. Having a reason to want to respect the park, because if it's being taken care of, it's amazing what it does to people's psychology, and this is proven. So we need to stop giving money to the cops, and because they lead to lawsuits, they lead to and things that can't be quantified, loss that cannot be quantified, mental health, physical, like when they tase somebody or they beat somebody or they just harass somebody they don't like by pulling them over a lot, the psychological abuse, like the way they do pretextual stops, all that stuff. It's really it's a one-way ticket to make your society sick. And it's not acceptable. And so please, let's hold these people accountable and invest in other things. So Josh Garcia, if you're listening, dude, this is an easy win. Put some money and resources behind protecting renters. They're the ones who also work.
Also, just address things as if you're an executive functioning administrator. Don't leave people in the dark. Like other citizens like Steve Superba are asking, like, be a leader and own up to the mistakes in your town and come up with real change. Don't just sit there, delay, and not talk.
Yeah, and if the cops are your daddy, it's okay to say they're holding me hostage.
Yeah, like tell the rest of the town. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
so if you're genuinely afraid of these people for whatever reason, or you have repercussions because of personal ties or familial ties or whatever the leverage may be, there's more of us than there are of those special interests. So like, be real with us, be real with your constituents. If that's the case, like, yo, they wag the dog, say it. I don't know. You pride yourself on being a good manager. I quote that. He said that to Joanna and I, right? So a good manager is able to say where they're struggling and what they need for resources. And if the police are the ones preventing you from doing the right thing, you need to tell us that.
yep, and a good manager should also be able to take criticism. So Mayor Josh Garcia, if you hear this, like Spencer said, please be a manager, be a leader. I would never remain silent in this situation. And I know some people would say, you don't know what it would be like to be in that situation. I have an idea. I have values. You have to stand by what you say to people. You have to stick to it. And if it makes you a one-term mayor or a one-term politician because you stood for your values rather than you didn't do anything, I would respect you more. And you honestly, you should respect yourself more.
We'll help you find a job.
Yeah, yeah. Just you should respect yourself at that
Do the
point.
right thing, and good things will happen. Even if in the short term you get Leslie Noped and recalled. I get it. Like sometimes doing the I get it. I understand. Like, yo, if I was in that position, you can't just walk in day one and be like,
No, you
all
can't.
right,
You
bye,
can't.
police. No, you have to give people reason to have faith in you. So you have to like maybe push through legislation or maybe reconfigure a department that can do more of the wellness checks, do more of, or maybe invest in EMTs or what, maybe you can do stuff like that and show people there's another way. There's another way. Before you know it, they'll forget that we use the cops for everything for 50 years.
Yeah, and just on a small scale level, like you can go in and do some things as a manager, like look at the department, see what's wasteful, see who's doing what, be effective, be other, hands-on, care about how things are running. And then like Spencer said, like things align in a way where people are happier if they're just in a better work environment. Like, I don't know, it would make me sick to know that at the police station it was a hostile work environment because it's already for me a trigger, but like I would never stay silent. And I mean, for legal reasons, I could see why he may not be able to say much about this potentially, but then at least be behind the scenes, maybe doing like talking about other things that you could touch on. There are a lot of changes that could be made in Holyoke that aren't necessarily huge that people that you've mentioned, like neighbor to neighbor, have asked. I mean, they didn't have like Josh didn't have to put shot spotter in place without even putting it to a vote. He just has lost me kind of like a while ago.
Yeah, his hands weren't tied there. That was
Yeah, he thought that was just cool, I feel like.
that's an easy thing to say. Like, I'm going to shelve that idea, get back to it next year.
Yeah.
And then maybe people forget about it. I don't
Oh.
want any ideas, Josh. Do that, and I won't let you forget about it. How's that?
I just hope that like people that are in the community that are asking for more get more. They deserve it.
We do have to convince our fellow neighbors that it's not a bad thing to invest in the least, the perceived least in our community. And they're not the least. It's just like anything else. If you feed it, if you take care of it, everything gets better.
I'm like a Tamagotchi.
Anyways, I mean, we'll talk about Holyoke and
I need playtime.
and Mayor Garcia all day. I'm glad that Steve spoke up and JR also spoke at that.
Oh, nice.
So there, and Steve has spoke about Chief Pratt previously because he's discussed it and how he's handled questioning by counsel as well. I am like the reason I got such a hair across my ass for Chief Pratt is how he's talked to his bosses.
Oh yeah, and just in general, his attitude when he talks about certain things is gross.
To call weapons of war, toys like a kid on Christmas. Fuck you, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you view life. That's how you view the community, that we're combatants. And maybe he doesn't look at me and see a combatant because I mean
he looks at me and sees something else too, but I'm not gonna say what.
He sees you, being a woman is probably, I don't know, we should expect it. But I mean, if you do that job, it's like the Venn diagram is almost a fucking circle between
like, I don't want to know how he
like, if you want to be a cop, like, because even the women this applies to.
Oh, totally. Lady cops, you mean?
Notice you never hear of a non-binary police officer.
Yeah, it's a lady cop. That's why they love to use it for propaganda.
Or a trans cop.
They're like 30 years behind everyone else. They're like, we have lady cops, girls.
We do girl, like, remember Northampton's Instagram where they like flex about
an all ladies shift. It's like, this is so fucking offensive.
Shift. It was an all ladies night shift.
It was.
And just
it's like ladies night. It's like, go fuck yourself. That's so fucked.
And like, we don't need the big strong men around. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, this is what we call police. Oh God. Anyways, and like, don't get me wrong, like, can we do something about, like, on Friday, like on nights where there's a lot of foot traffic in Northampton, can we have, I guess we'll call them safety or police, not officers, but like, because I don't like that word. It's too military, but you know,
Community safety people, like something, like there has to be a
Yeah.
way for like,
and they
and
can
you
just
don't need people mingling about, like most people are safe. I don't know.
like, you know,
I-
when the bars are getting out and people getting a little rowdy outside the bar and just need somebody to diffuse it, you know, and like just kind of get people like with I mean, not to be like crude, but like with your dog, if the dog is like on a leash and reactive towards another dog, you just gotta keep moving forward. And
Yeah.
that's what peace people should do. So in our future, there are such thing as people that do jobs where they de-escalate and they just like what does this person in this neighborhood need? Oh, we noticed there's somebody camped out under this over here. Let's go see if we can help them get some services or what's going on, you know, without the threat of being thrown in a cage. Because that's the thing, people want police officers to do that. And it's like, but ultimately, all they know how to do and have is a cage.
Yeah, they can't really fix anything
So even if a
for
guy
anyone.
is a good like a good guy police officer who's trying his best to like be a community officer who's trying to embody what we're talking about, you can't really do that with a gun on your hip. I'm sorry. You're scary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not scared, whoa. I'm afraid whenever our guns are around.
Yeah, me
Guns are
too.
meant for one thing. I'm not
Everyone should
anti-gun,
be.
but we should all be agreeing to being around the gun. I think there should be some consent there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
places,
know.
places that are fine for guns. And I don't know how to like put that into policy, but like in general, can't that just be the social contract? Maybe not a hard law, but like, hey man, it's kind of a faux pas to be like walking up to my house with a gun.
Or near children.
Right. So
Like
yeah,
straight up, this isn't even crazy. Like straight up as a kid, I might have been like, let me hold your gun and like tried to grab it. Like I just feel like it's just kids don't understand either. And it normalizes it.
I can tie this back to Holyoke. So remember, there's multiple stories of officers leaving their guns in public restrooms, like the Holyoke Mall.
Imagine if as a kid you find
SRO.
it. You're
What
just
if you're
thinking,
an SRO?
but that's what I'm saying. Like you just find it and you're like, you're a kid. You don't understand. It's kind of cool. Like it's like the movies.
We can't presume everybody has a gun background either,
No, especially children.
especially children, but just in general. So yeah, like the cops having as many guns as they do, and Chief Pratt referred to them as guns. They lose their guns. They always need more guns. I mean, you can Google that. We talked about them wanting more guns. They've lost many guns. They won't tell us what guns they have. This is why Chief Pratt's got to go.
It just like probably won't happen because we have Mayor Quiet in office.
I thought he was a good manager. That's what he kept telling.
I mean, he maybe he is in a corporate setting. I don't know.
Okay, if that means he doesn't flip tables and stuff, cool. Like that's great. That's a good quality to have. Like if you can maintain your cool, that's a good attribute.
I guess it's just that there's a point where like, yeah,
See,
as a manager, I'm maintaining my cool, but like if I were in charge of this police department, I wouldn't be able to, and it wouldn't be wrong in my opinion.
No, I mean they have not earned. They have been the walking, like
They're like an embarrassment.
they are like super troopers level reason to be.
Yeah, there could be a movie made about them.
I mean, essentially anybody or like shitty comedy making fun of the cops. I mean, the Holyoke police have actually done.
Yeah, I forget that they've like left their guns randomly.
They have a long history. No, and like goes back to like the 70s and 80s. I've had people tell me stories going back a long time, and I haven't lived in Holyoke that long. I mean, it's been 10 years, but it's like they're a fabled fucking department.
I just feel like you could get fired from like a job for losing your company computer. So it's just insane to think if it's a gun.
Right. And the fact that that they don't even suspend their license to carry. If I left my gun somewhere, I'm getting my license taken. The one thing Massachusetts does okay is make you get an LTC. So,
well, and I will say the cops do handle that though on like when they come. Like even if you have a license to carry, like I've seen some shit go down and cops come and like not potentially take someone's license, if that makes sense. Just be like, okay, don't do this again. So they get to decide too, which is also sucks.
Well, it's like, and then you have ShotSpotter in Holyoke, and they show up, and there's people that have guns, and it may not always be illegal, but they have probable cause to like check what you have.
Totally,
And
to check you
even if
because of
haven't
that.
registered, that's still like in my mind an unlawful search, and we have to draw the lines here because that's really fucking important. And that's their personal defense, and they shouldn't be disarmed. You know, if we're like going to be Second Amendment nuts. So using ShotSpotter to create pretextual reasons to search people and then to possibly take their weapon even temporarily, it's like an overreach. And this isn't like, oh, you know, mistakes happen, or, you know, it's better to be safe and sorry. No, the government has to be right, come correct, or fuck off. That's the standard rich white guys get. Come correct or fuck off. Like, look what's happening with people like Donald Trump, Roger Stone, any of these big actors. Like, everything's got to be perfect and timed out and overwhelming evidence. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, and then if they like rape a woman, it's like, you guys sure you did that? Nope. Okay.
There's no, you know, there's no video evidence, you know, like with the Carol and Donald Trump as we speak, that's in trial.
My
And
God, the things
he's
that
not
man
even
will
showing
say.
up. He's not even showing up to clear his name for defamation. It's not even for the rape, but it's for defamation. He's not even showing up.
It's probably better when he says things. It's crazed. It's so
No,
crazed.
no, but like, there's no honor in this man. He's being accused of something.
Oh
and
yeah.
he deigns to even show up because it's a civil case and I don't have to be there. And it's like, oh,
That tracks for him.
I don't think that would go too good for me.
No, but that tracks for him. And so I will say, you can sometimes send your lawyer to a civil case.
No,
It's
I
considered
understand, but
legal.
like, if you're innocent, a good look is to show up and face it. Like, I didn't fucking do this, even
Fair
if you don't
enough.
say. Just showing up to take, like, show that you care.
If you're the
enough to take-
person being, I guess, if you're the person being, if
Yeah,
you're not
I
the
mean,
defense, I guess, yeah, you should show up. As a defense, I've not shown up as for a civil case before because someone was the male was so verbally aggressive that my lawyer had me stay home.
talking about as a man
I'm
who
just saying.
weird. Just talking from like the fact that I've been socialized as a straight man, like, I would want to get my name cleared. That's a serious allegation.
No, that's because you have a good value system.
Yeah. But the odds of me being in that situation, negligible compared to this guy. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't ever want to say like I'm perfect, but I doubt I'll ever be in this situation. So I guess there's always somebody lower than you. So, you know,
I just feel like I like that he takes the victims, like, I guess the victim's position, like you said, like he just doesn't show up.
yeah, I mean,
like he's a victim.
The bar's in fucking hell.
Yeah.
You can hold these small town people accountable. So, you know,
You still can. That's why we focus local as much as we do.
Yeah, and these are things we can touch. It doesn't feel so like soap opera-y, you know?
Yeah, that it does. And he's so orange now. Like, I feel like he's even more orange. I just can't take it seriously. I know I have to because it's real. But when he talks and the mouth moves,
I just think national politics has lost the fucking plot.
dude, it's off the chains. Like, we joke about, well, what timeline is this, everyone? Like, off recording. Like, what timeline is this though? When you watch like some of the things that Trump, that one interview that I recently listened to, I do not like to talk about him ever. It's like the one time I'm going to, but where they're like, it was like a deposition, I think, where he's talking about like being a like a woman is reading, and you say you can grab them by the pussy if you're a star, and he's basically sounds like the craziest uncle, senile person who's drunk ever. He's bright orange, and if it wasn't like possible for him to ever be president again, I may laugh a little, only because it's like, oh my God, dude, like, you don't even care. Like, what you're saying back to this woman sounds, you're like absurd. So I guess, I don't know, man, he's unbelievable at this point. I don't know how he's even alive, I guess.
And like, kudos to this man for somehow getting us on a tangent about him. Because that's his
maybe we should cut this.
it's important. That's his superpower. That is his superpower. Like, he is that shitty kid in high school. You know, the kid I'm talking about, who always had like the crudest shit to say and would like every now and then get a laugh from somebody in the room. And well, no, every time he get a laugh, but it'd be a different person in the room. So like willing to say anything, throw your shit against the wall and like still get a result. And just like appeals to like the worst in people.
Well, yeah, so like that's the thing. Like I don't normally talk about him, but there's something about like when he's saying these terrible, weird things where like I'm still nervous if he's able to run for president, what he's able to get for votes. He still makes me nervous.
Yeah, I mean, he's
just like such a showman, but it's like I don't know how people will buy into it. But oh man, yeah, he's so weird. He's so weird.
And he's a fascist and he's a rapist and he's not a good person.
So gross, so gross. Like so many things. So many things.
The losing the presidency or not losing because he's never acknowledged that, but like leaving the Oval Office like was a major narcissistic wound that he will never recover from.
Ugh.
So that's like why he seems even more unhinged. I think that's just
that's I guess how I would put it. I was like, wow, because I said I will not talk about him probably much more. And I don't usually watch him talk, but when I saw this most recent clip, I was like, very perfect way to put it. He was so unhinged.
Yeah,
I know he is, but like it seemed more so.
But he's dangerous. So like we don't discount him. But yeah, I mean, we still gotta even the alternatives like Sleepy Joe over there and Grandpa Joe, Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe's a hilarious nickname. Gotta give it to Trump. Like that's
yeah, he's good with the nicknames.
It sticks and it's kind of true, but it's like whatever. Like Biden's still a fash with rainbows. Like even then, like he only like recently became cool with some things like abortion. Like that's a recent phenomenon.
Black people. I have to I don't know like what to think of the 2024 election still. Because we have like RFK and Marianne Williams like
whatever. Let's
stepping out. We're derailed.
Let's get back to the local. Like since we can't have to go big, this is a good segue into our like statewide issue. And these people get very this government entity is very overlooked, and there's a lot of not good reason. There's a lot of understandable reason because the judicial. We have secret courts in Massachusetts. We also have very little public oversight into the judicial system. Same goes for legislative. Same goes for the executive branch. So state level, they have a lot of exceptions on what these offices have to disclose. And Andrew Quamir has brought this up many times. Like he is flabbergasted that Maura Healey hasn't loosened transparency into the executive branch yet, and she's basically like kept Charlie Baker's policy. She hasn't. Basically, she has same policy, and she didn't even update her website for months. So that's a problem. But the legislature, led by Ron Mariano out of Quincy, my hometown, so that's how we're tying it back to Quincy, and to get political power in a city like Quincy. I'm guessing you're a bulldog. Like I'm guessing you're a bully and you take no prisoners. So this guy I'm just going on what I can guess from being from the same city, and knowing the politics of the city, through my family and through having lived there for half my life. But according to CBS News, Massachusetts House Speaker Ron Mariano rejects audit of legislature. He just, nope, not allowed to look at anything we've ever done.
And this is a Democratic leader in Massachusetts. I just want the audience to know that. And this, like Sven said, like at the town level, municipality level, anyway, town, cities, you can get a decent amount of information.
This is why we focus on
public record. Yeah.
We feel like we have a little leverage over the cities.
At the state, like you mentioned, there's so much that we're not allowed to access for information wise. And I don't know. Andrew Quamir does do a wonderful job of explaining why it's, harmful. And I don't understand why they wouldn't want to be transparent, especially when so many of our Democratic leaders here in Mass claim to be progressive. If you're progressive, like, why are you so worried about people? Or if you're trying to like uphold your values, like, why are you so worried about us knowing what's going on? It shouldn't be secretive.
Yeah, you shouldn't be making the journalist job harder. It's already
For
hard.
anyone's, like, the public should get to know if in the municipality we can, and this in other states it's different too.
If you claim
And we have other episodes where you could go back and listen to like public records requests and stuff with Andrew, and he may even mention like other states have it at the state level. Then we it's weird that we don't, and when we claim to be so blue and open and all that.
Yeah, and not to like go beat on Maura Healey on a story that's about the legislator, but like this is where identity politics are not the end all be all, because she's holding the same policy as a GOP 6.5 foot tall standard issue white guy.
Yeah.
GOP, like literally like a non-playable character Republican, like the prototype of Republican. And she has the same policies essentially. So what the fuck does this party system even mean? And what does identity even mean? I mean, it's good that we have somebody that's not a straight white guy, so I will say that, but that is second to the fact that her policies don't reflect her campaign promises. That's a problem because the people elected you for that reason. So you can't like scale back to the right when you won on the policies scaled to the left.
Right.
That's what's so frustrating about it. It's like, so you were able to win a mandate running on leftist policies like Mayor Garcia, to bring it back home, and with leftist support. And I'm saying leftist being anything left of like center right to the left, like the swath of people you have to pull from, because most people are center right. So, you know, abolitionists are a tiny percentage, communists are bigger, socialists are even bigger than that. But like, and then once you're getting office, you swing back to the right. Why? You won on the mandate to the left, so it means the people in the center agreed with your the policy the left wants. Like,
Yeah, like more and more it shows, polling shows that like actually the like population in general tends to be more left if they're not like thinking about the two parties, like their overall values.
and this is where like the national Democrats are disingenuous when they say the Republicans are the only ones that gerrymander. It's like bullshit.
Everyone does, and not enough people even vote. Like everyone should just look at the vote, look at how many people actually vote compared to not voting. It's like
Right.
in a true democracy, you'd hope we'd have like, 60, 70% turnout at least. We do not have close to that ever.
If either of one of the two parties, let's just say the Democrats do actually have the better ideas, which, that's debatable, but let's say they have the better ideas, and if they just spent some of their resources on voting education, like you're creating a voter base that way, and they'll vote. The turnout is always going to benefit the left. So I don't know. I don't understand why they don't. I guess I know why, because they want to keep the status quo just as much as Republicans.
You want the right people in position. And I would argue that Massachusetts is like a very good example of like a moderate centrist state that thinks it's like the people that I know that would say that it's progressive, like they're just not understanding that it's basically like that's how Mitt Romney and Charlie Baker and Maura Healey all just work well for here. Like it's all just kind of the same political thing, even though it's maybe named differently. It's very, very, very similar.
And Massachusetts is, kind of fractured in a lot of ways by class and stuff, because we do have farmers, we do have industrial workers, we do have doctors and lawyers, like
mad students.
One of the biggest fish markets in the world, like one of the oldest, in the Western world. So it's like there's a lot of shit in Massachusetts from east to west. We have a tourist, we have a little bit of what every other state has.
Absolutely.
We have nature, we have cities, we have subways, we have highways.
We have mountains, and our terrain is like mountains to beaches. We have all of it.
So I think in some ways we have the idea of what it's like to live different lives in the same state while having to, negotiate and run governments. But overall, this place is very center right. they want to just have police officers that have bachelor's degrees. I'm
Or
being-
like put a social worker in the car with them.
right, where they still have a gun. And the social worker is going to be right.
They're
late,
like scared for their life too.
whether they realize it or not.
Right.
Or they may just defer to the cop.
Well, I think anyone might, because it's like with the power dynamic and they're holding the gun.
So back to Ron Mariano. Basically, homeboy doesn't want anything. He's willing to sue over it. And
Yeah, but I
it's-
bet you everyone agrees with him. Honestly, that's the worst part.
yeah, and like they don't record committee votes. That's all done behind closed doors. So nobody knows how people are voting in committee. And
Which
that's
is
how
messed up.
they decided on the floor. It's very broken. So okay.
No, it's not okay at all.
And I don't know. Do you have anything to add to this discussion about transparency?
I just feel like anyone who's a Democratic leader in our state or a Republican leader, I don't know, like any political entity that knows, like you see at the level where like people vote in Washington, we can see how they vote. And then in towns and municipalities, we can see how they vote. Makes no sense. It seems very shady. I'm going to use that term. It's a shady dealings. And I just think if I were able to be governor, which, that's never happening, I would have something to say. And if I were on at least one of the people in the legislature, like, I don't know, there's a lot of women even from this area that I'm just surprised don't push for this to be actually a thing, because just transparency builds trust. And if you're doing the right thing, you shouldn't care what we see.
Correct. And for people listening out east, from people who live out west, empower our policymakers from the west, because they don't have as much sway as the people in the east do. And we need resources. And we are, we have the issue of the home market being kind of fucked up because people have a lot of second homes or rental properties, and that's not great for us. It doesn't help us, and it keeps the cycle of poverty going. And somebody like our friend Michael Hitchcock, who we're going to have on next week, is going to talk to us about Pittsfield, and that's a lot of their problems, a lot of secondary homes in Pittsfield, and it's really bad for the market. It's really bad for the community. It doesn't help the workers. So yeah, I mean, I could go on about that, but I won't.
All of the Berkshires have that problem too. That's the thing.
Of course,
It's a
yeah. I
Premier
just figured-
cultural resort.
Figured it would be a nice time to plug Michael. So
Oh yeah. Hey, Michael.
yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna have him on. We're gonna talk Pittsfield bullshit. So, we started off with a story from Pittsfield, and we went all up and down the major players in Western Mass. I guess. Oh, maybe one more throw in. It's actually kind of comical. Basically, Springfield police put out a rebuttal to their DOJ report that put them under consent decree with the Department of Justice from the feds. So they're big mad about it, and their discrepancies are saying it will exonerate them. And Joanna, thoughts on the discrepancies?
Oh my goodness. The things that we saw, like when they were like, one officer was like, it was said like he did all these things. And they're like, they put his title down wrong. Because of that, they should all be thrown out. And it's like, oh my goodness. Like, no, everything else they said was right. And if so, it's upsetting. So I guess earlier when I used Captain Reyes' real title, it's probably because I have been conditioned by reading this. Because
I feel like Captain Reyes, for that's back in Holyoke now. He is a lieutenant now, and was a captain or was a captain and is a lieutenant now. I forget. The point is, he's been promoted since he's out. We're like obviously known around the office, if not by the higher ups. Like this behavior was happening for a while, but it's back to Springfield. Pretty hilarious that they we're going through the report and trying to basically find typos or
yeah, it's so embarrassing. It's like, oh my God, dude, like why would you write this? I don't.
and
It's
they're
a
just
super
hoping,
LOL.
Like the way they write the title and the headline they fed to the news source that we'll link on the webpage, basically is like DOJ. Springfield PD offers rebuttal to the DOJ that will exonerate, and then it's like report of the obfuscation of by the DOJ, and this is the stuff that was included in that. And they're just hoping nobody reads it.
First of all, I read the title and just crack up, and then you read it entirely, and you're like, "Holy shit!"
On their press release, they telling themselves, the Springfield police telling themselves by saying, "We need the public to know the truth, so they'll better inform their decisions down the line." And they're hoping the general public just sees the headline or the table of contents and just kind of, gets on the propaganda hype train via Mass Live, WWLP, Western Mass News. And, the local people say, nah, that DOJ thing was an overreach and blah, blah, blah. They make an example. It's like, well, remind them they're the only department that were investigated under Bill Barr for the Trump administration. The only fucking.
That's so bad. So bad.
When Merrick Garland took over, there were so many departments that were on the docket that just were never pushed through. And notice the last 2 years, there's a shit ton of investigations. Worcester PD, baby. Worcester's one of them. They are under investigation by the DOJ for, shockingly, their narcotics unit, just like Springfield, abusing people, stealing from people, all the things, racial profiling. So yeah, this is guys, narcotic units. That's their moneymaker. That's where they do the most shady, fucked up shit. So, and the war on drugs, I guess, is where I'm going to end on that. And defund these fucking narcotic units.
You're like, what the fuck? Shut up to that. They're probably just doing the narcotics.
Whatever they're fucking doing, who knows? Who cares? All that said, that's what we have for local news, Western Mass and beyond. And I think it's a good time to wrap up the episode, but before we go, we're still gonna do ghoulery and tomfoolery. How do you feel about that, Joanna?
It's always a good one.
So ghoulery and tomfoolery this week, brought to us from the great state of Texas in the news for way too many reasons.
Don't mess with Texas.
A lot of tragedy down in Texas.
So sad.
Their governor's an asshole.
Totally.
They since he's taken office, they're number one in the country in mass shootings.
He's the worst.
He's a bad motherfucker. I wish the tree finished the job.
For real.
It's a bummer that tree
Someday
didn't finish the job. So people at home, Greg Abbott was paralyzed by a tree limb that fell down.
Didn't do its job though.
Don't worry, he was paralyzed, and that's too bad that it didn't just end it all swiftly, because he's a bad person. But he's a bad person. Here's why. So he sued the insurance company for the house of the city or whatever, and anybody he could sue, and he won a bunch of money. And then one of his first acts as governor years later, with the money he had, that set him up for life basically, and created this mega ghoul. From this settlement, he he put a cap on how much you can recoup in a situation just like that.
Dude, that's the type of thing though. I forgot about that. He's like a mega ghoul.
And it was something for sake of round numbers, or I remember the ratio. So it was say he got $10 million, which I might be overdoing it. He capped it at $500,000 a year for a set amount of years, some similar like that, really restricted.
He's like, I'll be the only one that gets rich in my state.
He literally had bad luck happen, did okay out of it, was able to parlay that into a pretty good political career, and he is very wealthy because of his connections. Now he pulled the ladder up from behind him. So
and he'll be like, if you're disabled, fuck you. You can't get the same deal I did.
He got the work and did the dirty work for the insurance lobby or whoever made that law stricter in favor for.
Super cool. So it's not surprising that Texas is our
that's we haven't even gotten to the story of Ghoulery,
which is yes,
executive branch. on all the way down. They said that nothing can stop mass shootings but prayers. That's what he's
Ew.
off. He's gross, and it's like every third day he's doing a press conference about mass shootings. Like, don't you get sick of this, dude?
Don't you get sick of praying?
And don't you realize it doesn't fucking work? Like, we gotta I don't know, not have this hyper isolated economy that drives people insane.
There's so many issues. It's just kind of like the prayers thing is so offensive.
Yeah, it's gaslighting. So this comes out of Austin, the hip city of Austin. It's like one
Woo.
fashion, so it's kind of like the Northampton of Texas, I think.
It is. It kind of is that.
A lot of pomp and circumstance, and it's like it is not without a doubt better than most places as far as inclusivity and safety. But their police department is just as ghoulish as every other police department, maybe more, because they're trying to make up for the fact that they don't get to openly beat the gays. They just take their opportunities when they can. I don't know their use of force percentages, but there was a vote in their local government that passed 80-20, so that's a 60-point victory.
Majority rules.
Way above, that's super majority plus.
Mm-hmm.
Calling for a civilian oversight board. And again, just like body-worn cameras and school resource officers, it's a good intention, but the wrong tool. And we could do a whole episode on civilian oversight bureaus and boards. But regardless, the people voted for it, and it's not the worst thing. It doesn't really work, but it's something. And so this passed 80-20, and Austin police put Austin Police Association, so their union. Well, we put union in quotes, because it's a gang. So they're refusing to acknowledge the legitimacy of that vote to install a civilian oversight board. They don't want more oversight. That's pretty clear. And, there's a multiple tweet thread. We will tag this on the website. Do you want to read it, or you want me to read it, Joanna?
You can read it.
Okay. So do you have any thoughts before I dive into it? It's a four tweet thread. So,
I mean, I just think, honestly, again, as a mayor of a town, if I were in the situation where a police association or a police department were holding the town hostage, basically, or not doing what their what democracy has asked of them, I would maybe take the financial hit from being sued by their stupid association. I feel like eventually a mayor or a town official needs to step out. Yeah, you probably won't be popular with your constituents because you're losing money still, but we need to fight these associations. They cannot dictate over the town community's desires. They can't just I can't just decide even at work or many things that I just get to not do them. So I just think it's very interesting that they released a statement saying they refuse.
Yeah, and they're posturing straight up for no oversight. They don't want any oversight, whereas any reasonable union would say, okay, you are demanding oversight. Yeah, we're going to fight with you on the parameters of said oversight. Again, I don't give a fuck about cop unions, but it's not to say unions don't have to compromise with, this is how negotiations work. And these
you
guys
always have to compromise, but it doesn't seem like these
are not even willing to even have an open dialogue about compromise will be. They're saying we're taking our ball and going home. So I'm going to read the tweets. So the Austin Police Association, I made sure that it was actually them before I'm reading this. So it's not a verified, because Twitter's a mess right now, but it's definitely legitimate. So the Austin Police Association is aware of the election results and is taking immediate action to determine the city's intentions regarding the implementation and enforcement of the illegal provisions contained in Prop A, referring to the vote. Proposition A, the Austin Police Association simply will not stand by while this city and anti-police activists, LOL, they're talking about basically our cousins in Austin, solidarity and anti-police activists in Austin, You got a shout out, so good for you. So, anyways, the Austin Police Association simply will not stand by this city and the anti-police activists operate with blatant disregard for state law and the rights and protections afforded to our hardworking men and women. Notice they only offer men and women, not people. The APA continues to prioritize negotiating a long-term contract. However, we will not be forced back to the table under a structure in which the new city ordinance attempts to unlawfully interfere with the statutory rights associated with the meet and confer process. Oh. We look forward to finding these answers so that we can get back under a long-term contract that allows for our police department to recruit, hire, and retain the best and brightest people who wish to serve this community in a law enforcement capacity. If you look at, so that's the tweet. So what they're saying, and this is what I'm hearing, we won't be able to hire fascists if there's a promise of oversight and accountability. We won't be able to get the people we want if that's a part of terms of the contract.
I mean, they always say they're not going to be able to hire anyone, but I'm sorry, like all
They're
their
going to hire the
kids,
people that are requiring you not to have oversight. I don't want to hire them.
like stop hiring those people too. But yeah, but they're always saying that as a way to like get things to like, it's another scare tactic to the people like, oh, we're not going to have any cops because of this law. But like, I'm sorry, all their kids or like cousins or whatever people they know are told about the great benefits in the union. Like people are still becoming cops. It's a fucking bullshit lie.
Well, if you're a Twitter person, I recommend going to this link that will be on our website notes, because honestly, some of the replies are hilarious. If you see a blue check, 99% of the time you should just disregard them. They're most likely right-winger bootlickers. But, you know, there's some hilarious like memes below. I won't describe things you can't see on a podcast, but I recommend going to that Twitter thread. I love seeing cop Twitter pages get abysmally ratioed. It's one of the few joys I have on the internet, honestly, when they like think they're posting something like badass or cool and they're just getting nuked.
Yeah, and if they have to delete it, it's a more even
So
super win.
This tweet thread does not disappoint in that regard. Watching them get dunked on their home turf is hilarious. Even with all the bootlickers fighting for their life in the replies, they can't even threaten the town without giving away their hand. Basically, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be held accountable for when they do fucked up shit, because they know they do fucked up shit. I mean, it's a mission of guilt, and that's the ghoulery and tomfoolery. It's everywhere, not just in Western Mass.
Yeah, it's basically like we were just talking about someone. Oh, it's like the rebuttal from Springfield. People refusing to just, I don't know, do anything, like the cops in Greenfield basically acting like they're being defunded. They cried the same thing. Like, oh, like anti-police rhetoric is doing this to us. No, you did this yourself.
Yeah, they have classic. It's like the Trump cult, where it's like a narcissistic cult. They all have like a touch of the narcissism. You know, it's always they're gaslighting, they're victimizing themselves, they're victim shaming others. And it's always about them. And the reality is, this is what happens when you have multi-generations of nepotism with guys with guns on their hips. You know, this doesn't happen.
And ladies.
Oh, people. It's an evolution, you know. It's an evolution, and they've evolved to a protected status, or a perceived protected status, offensive if anybody questions them. And it's like, dude, go watch the Department of Waste director get grilled. They fucking scrutinize every motherfucking.
And the superintendent is getting grilled, and that's like, you know, like
they're not responsible for bullets. Like, you know, yes, can there be embezzlement? Can bad things happen? Of course that can happen. That can happen any job, anywhere.
Especially if they have a gun.
But like, how hard do they go on these people that manage the school budgets? We sit through town halls, man. It's disgusting. You go watch even on C-SPAN, you watch them how easy they go on the Pentagon. People.
Well, I mean, I can't go down that right now.
I don't watch C-SPAN anymore for that reason.
I'll just rant about that forever. People can look it up.
There's
Pentagon's
people,
bullshit.
from other states that I can do absolutely dick all about, and I just get really emotionally drained by people. There's nothing I can do about. So that's why we started the weed out, everybody. Back to where, our garden. Thank you for sitting through our conversation.
People may not be as in tune to the local news and be sharing it like we are, mocking certain entities and loving others.
Right. And maybe we're just trying to give an all, because unfortunately the standard for journalism is always going to be owner centric or administrative or authoritative centric, because it's about having access to get the information. So they're trying not to burn a bridge, and it's a fine line. It's hard. I don't envy being a journalist, a full-time, somebody, it's hard because you got to hold these people accountable, but you also need access to it. So it's I get it, but we like to offer some points that aren't so obvious, that are obscured by the choice of words. We say a cop murdered somebody. We don't say officer involved shooting. That matters, right, Joanna?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're doing here. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Please go to www.theweedout.com and look forward to hearing from y'all. And do you have anything you'd like to share with the audience, Joanna?
No, I just hope everyone takes care.
All right, great. Have a good rest of your night and happy listening, everybody.